In the quiet of the desert night, beneath the endless sky, Fazza walks alone, though the stars seem to cry. He is the voice of his nation, the heart of his land, yet tonight he feels empty, with no one to hold his hand. He carried the pride of a country so strong. He wrote poems of hope, he sang love song. But what is a crown? What is the throne's light, when the one you wait for never comes tonight? He whispered to the wind, he whispered to the moon, where is the promise of meeting soon? Did she forget the bond? Did she forget my name? Or was my love just a fleeting flame? The falcons soared high, the horses ran free, but his heart was shackled, drowning at sea. For a ruler may smile, but the poet inside weeps. He hides his sorrow where silence sleeps. My country is my breath, my people my pride, but who will walk with me by the riverside? Who will hear the man, not just the name? Who will love the soul, not only the fame? Every poem he wrote carried her face, every word a memory, every verse a trace. He called her the dream, the star of the night, but dreams without meeting lose their light. He stood by the palace, the tower so tall, yet his heart was small, his tears would fall. For a prince may lead, but a man still yearns, for the love that heals, for the heart that returns. Oh, beloved, why did you not come? I waited with roses, I waited with drums. The desert knows, the ocean does too, that my soul belongs only to you. But silence answered, cold and deep, the kind that makes even strong men weep. So Fazza wrote verses to ease his pain, hoping his tears would not fall in vain. Perhaps tomorrow or another year, perhaps one day you'll appear. But until then I'll carry the flame, Fazza in sorrow, calling your name. The desert wind carried his sighs across the dunes, a lonely prince beneath the silver moons. He was a son of the soil, a brother to the sand, a leader, a poet, the voice of the land. Yet in his heart a wound remained unhealed, a story of love that time could not conceal. He gave his people joy, he gave them pride, but who would wipe the tears he hides inside? He stood by the falcon, his faithful friend, asking questions the night could not comprehend. Why do I stand with the world at my feet, but the one I love does not come to meet? Is love so fragile? Is love so shy? Why must the strongest heart still cry? Why must the man who carries a crown feel so broken, feel so down? The city lights sparkled, the towers stood tall, yet none could hear his silent call. For kings may smile and princes may lead, but even a poet has a heart that bleeds. He remembered the letters he once wrote in sand, promises carried softly by her hand. He remembered her eyes, a river of grace, the warmth of her smile, the light of her face. But time was cruel and distance grew. Her silence was sharper than any wound knew. He waited at the gates, he waited by the shore, but her footsteps never reached his door. My country is my honor, my soul, my breath. I will serve it faithfully until my death. But love is not duty, love is not law. It is the ache of the heart, the beauty I saw. He spoke to the stars, he spoke to the sea. Beloved, do you remember me? Or have I become just a fading rhyme, lost in the endless sands of time? And so he wrote, line after line, turning sorrow into something divine. For though she had not come, though she stayed apart, she lived forever inside his heart. The tears he shed watered the ground, silent but heavy, without a sound. And though the world may never know, his poetry carries the love below. The only place I could bleed, without question. Do you know the sorrow? Dot of clapping hands that hide a trembling pulse, of celebration that feels like exile. They from your own aching chest, they sang for me. Date songs stitched with praise, I as if my soul were a trophy. Then not a bruise wrapped in silk. I learned to laugh. D with lips that had kissed grief in secret. GI became fluent in the language, life of silent endurance. And each poem I wrote buried a wound within it, D like a flower planted in dry desert soil. Dot hoping someone would water it. D with understanding. My verses are riddles, not because I fear clarity, but because I fear pity. So I paint joy in public, and cry in metaphors. They applaud when I say love is eternal. But do they hear the tremor in the ink? The way the pen stutters when I write her name? She was a whisper I lost in a roar. She was the sea I could not hold. The end. So I built castles in the sand, death smiling, while the tide came for everything I hid. At night, I remove my crown. The end. I become a boy again, barefoot in memory, die bleeding in silence. No stage, no camera, no obligation to pretend. There, beneath the emptiness, my poems weep in full. They say, this is the prince's truth. He was celebrated, but he was alone. And in that loneliness, he wrote of roses. They. So no one would see the thorns in his breath. The garden of my words is lush. But each flower grew from sorrow. Each bloom carries the scent of something I dared not say aloud. When they praise my lines, I bow with grace. But I wonder that if they knew where the poem truly came from, would they still smile? Do they not see the grief? Does grandeur? My poetry is not just a crown. It's a confession. And every time they cheer, I mourn silently. For the boy who never got to cry. Then the sunlight, I have become the mask they needed, joyful, brave, untouchable. But behind the verses, I still remember the look in her eyes, that when she said goodbye. The line I wrote that night, the wa was never read aloud. She left like dusk, slowly. But once she was gone, nothing felt warm again. And so I wrote of stars,